Hi, welcome to First Issue Club. We're your weekly comic book podcast. We're just like Sue Storm. We love a good read. We're going to talk about first issues, as the title implies. I'm Mike D.
I'm Vargas.
This is a great week for first issues. You've got a stack piled high of all those free comic books you got at the end of the week.
Ooh. This
past weekend. If you didn't get any, head to your local comic shop. Pick up those free comics that are still left. If you've got a snooty tooty comic shop that won't give you free comic books from Free Comic Book Day,
tell them First Issue Club sent you.
Yeah, that's right. Get on Yelp and say, this shop's mean. They didn't give me my free comic books. Some shops are way too uptight about this. On our Patreon, we were talking about how I went to a shop where you could get as many as you want as long as you picked out one of each title. And I went to another shop that was in a much more populated part of town where they were just going to run out of comic books really quick.
Yeah.
So they said 5 comics per person, but you can pay $1 for an extra, for however many extra books you want, and all that money goes to a toy drive.
I think that's the way you should do it, kind of across the board.
Yeah, there's a shop in Lee Summit, a suburb from us, that does Harvesters donations.
Yeah.
And so for every can you bring,
that's great.
You get a free comic book.
That's great. Because, I mean, obviously walk in, grab as many as you want is great.
Yep.
But when you end up with a book like this Post Malone's Big Rig, where it's the book to have and it's, you know, selling for $12 an issue on the day it's released.
Yeah.
And you have knuckleheads walking into a shop and picking up a stack.
Yeah.
Or walking in, walking out, walking back in.
Sure.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That's bad. Don't do that.
Yep.
So yeah, make them pay for it and give that money to charity.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to look at it.
Totally.
But I have been to shops in my life where they are like regular customers only, and like only people who subscribe to comics through our shop are going to get treated with 2 copies.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, the whole point is to like get kids and get new people in, right? You want more people reading comics, so expose new people to new entry points. Just like the mission statement of this podcast. We want you reading more comics, so we talk about more entry points into them. And we have some today that we're excited to talk about, but we've also got some comic book news.
News.
As a cult-like ritual that we always do before we get into the comic books we're going to talk about.
But even before that, we have to give praise to our Lord and Savior,
Boulevard Brewing
Company.
And the Space Camper Cosmic IPA line of beers. Today we have Crater Raider Amber IPA. And what do you have, Vargas?
Chill Break Endless IPA.
Which is, I think, a little more of like an easier to drink session.
Boy, howdy.
And all of these taste great, and they are so hop forward. So if you like hops in your face, Space Camper is one of the best craft brews you can get in the dang biz, on the dang planet, and in the dang galaxy.
I find myself reaching more and more for chill breaks over Wheats.
Yes.
Which
Wheat is Boulevard's like flagship beer.
We're sponsored by Space Camper, so I have to say that Space Camper is the best. But Wheat is my favorite beer of all time.
Aha.
It has been before I even moved to Kansas City.
Wheat, I feel like, is a good entryway beer. It's very easy to drink and has a lot of flavor over, your like light beers.
Yes.
Right? You squeeze a lemon or a lime in it and it's fantastic.
It's amazing.
That a lot of people in the Midwest, I think Boulevard's Wheat was your gateway beer.
It's still probably my favorite beer, but more and more I find myself like I don't want the heaviness that Wheat has.
Yeah.
Because it gets a little sloshy in your tummy.
Uh-huh.
But something like this Chill Break.
Yeah.
lilies are going down.
Perfect for the summer.
Perfect for summer, and it still feels like I'm drinking a beer. It hits me right where I want it to.
If
So
that doesn't sell you, I don't know what will.
thank you, Boulevard. We love you.
Thank you. All right, let's get into some comic book news. Obviously, I'll say over on the Patreon, we covered all of the free comic book day books that we read.
Yes.
Kind of gave the highlights of what we enjoyed about them. Then we also gave all of our takes on Thunderbolts.
Yes. T-Bolts.
We didn't want to bring spoilers to the main feed so more people could listen to it if you haven't had a chance to go out and see the movie yet. But if you have watched it and you want to hear what we thought, head over to the Patreon.
Give us $1 and you can hear it.
Hey, we'll make this episode we just recorded the $1 tier release.
How about the free tier release? How about that?
Do we do that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Whatever you say.
Just for you people. It's free comic book day.
Okay,
Come
so
on,
it'll be
right?
free Patreon
Yeah,
episode this
free
one.
Patreon.
Just this 1 week.
Regular customers only.
That's right. No newbies.
No new people.
Okay, so head over for that. But yeah, a handful of things we saw that popped out to us this week as I get my little David Letterman cue cards here.
You have to put it in an envelope and put it up to your head.
Oh, Carson. That's Carson.
Oh, that's Carson. Whatever. What's the deal with airline food? That's him, right?
No. Old Guard 2 trailer.
Whew.
I'm as shocked as anybody. When I heard Old Guard was getting a movie, I said, boy howdy, I have these comic books. And then I saw Charlize Theron is starring in it. And I said, oh man, these are going to be worth lots and lots of money. And then the movie was going to be on Netflix, so there wasn't going to be a barrier for entry. People could just watch it. And unfortunately, that movie didn't seem to release to much fanfare. I remember this was one of those first times that I remember, wow, Netflix is taking a big swing on a big action movie with huge celebrities in it and just dropping it. And
But it was so good.
And seeing what happens.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
All right,
Yeah.
I think this was maybe before. I think this was before they realized they needed to do the ad campaigns and marketing.
Yeah,
right.
Totally.
Whereas before it was like, well, there's millions of Netflix subscribers. We just put a Charlize Theron movie on Netflix. Everyone's gonna flock to it, and people are gonna go gaga for this movie.
Yeah.
Instead, people see the thumbnail and they're like, oh, some old Charlize Theron movie I've never heard of.
Yeah.
Like, and you just glaze over it, right?
Yeah.
I think it needed
You're totally right.
more of a push to it. And I think they've since kind of figured that out. But I assumed the Old Guard franchise would have kind of been dead in the water because it appeared to just drift out into the abyss. And you're talking to all your, crazy MCU fans at the beginning of the height and climax of that when this was coming out and comic book movies were all the rage. And I couldn't talk about it with those people who would normally go see all the MCU stuff was kind of buoying all these other Hollywood projects based on comic books. And this didn't seem to get that MCU bump that all these other things get. So really surprised to see. And I enjoyed it. And I love, who is it, Greg Rucka?
Yeah.
That wrote that comic. I loved the comic. And I thought the movie was honestly pretty fun.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I really loved it. In fact, I rewatched it over the summer.
Did you?
Well, yeah, when
I need to give it another watch.
When I was up late with Ronan.
Yeah.
Because I was like, God, this movie deserves a sequel.
Yeah.
Well, here we are.
It's a really fun, revenge thriller.
Yeah.
It has a hint of John Wick, but is a little more plot driven and obviously more sci-fi.
Yeah,
I mean,
totally.
I guess I don't want to we're not really spoiling anything about the movie thus far,
and it's
or the plot.
5 years old at this point.
Yeah, but still, maybe something to check out if you're gonna have 2 movies to watch. So
yeah,
I don't know. I thought that was worth mentioning. It's just surprised it happened, and good on Greg Rucka and the original creative team and Charlize for getting another one of these out. That rules.
God, and I hope more actresses out there are like, yeah, Charlize can like lead the way and be like, I think, what's her name? That's going to be in that new ballerina John Wick movie, Ana de Armas.
Oh, okay.
She was that Bond girl in the last Bond movie,
Yeah.
and like she kicks some serious ass.
Yeah.
And I'm stoked to see her in ballerina, but we need more like female-led kick-ass action movies like that.
Die Hard type movies.
And Charlize Theron is like the tip of the spear for that.
100%. Like I like her Mad Max movie.
God, it's so good.
Was so good. And I also really liked Furiosa.
Furiosa ripped. It was awesome.
Dude, I did not know that it was going to lead into Fury Road the way it did.
Yeah.
Like, I assumed it was set, like, just because they have a different actress.
Sure.
I assumed it was set so far back in time, but it is, like, such an immediate
Yeah, it ends
prequel.
where Road,
yeah,
Road
and
starts.
so like that moment was like an amazing, like, whoa, this is it happening.
Yeah.
And you know, you didn't have to like CGI Charlize Theron's face on another person.
Right.
Like it was. I think it was better that they just cast like an actress and had her play this character.
Totally.
That movie ripped, and it suffered from the weird COVID no theater lull that we were coming out of.
Go watch Old Guard and Furiosa. That's your homework.
First Issue Club endorsed. Okay, you brought up that All-Star Superman is getting an audiobook adaptation.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
So, as a dork myself, this is stepping outside of the bounds of nerddom into dork territory.
Into dork territory, yeah. This is a step into finer niche.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Because of what I'm about to say, all right?
Because everyone's nerds now. Nerds is cool.
Yeah, I mean...
Dork is the new...
You're listening to a podcast about comic books. You're well within nerd, okay? I'm going to dork. As someone who has an appreciation and has listened to some of the old Superman audio serials, I think it's a cool throwback.
Sure, totally.
To like something that they did like fucking 2,000 of those episodes or something, right? Like it was a thing.
Yep, little kids sitting around a radio.
Like that was a moment in time, right? Yep. And I think it's cool that they're taking... that character and a modern story and doing it in, I'll say, an old-timey format. But, like...
Do we know that, like, is it going to be produced to be like, look, it's a plane. No, that's a bird.
No, they're doing it in a modern, updated style.
Okay, yeah. I didn't know if it was, like, full-on homage.
No, it's not a radio... serial.
Radio play, yeah.
It's not a radio play.
Yeah.
But they are doing...
Radio period piece.
Yeah. But, you know, they did some of that stuff with that Batman audio series.
I listened to a couple of the Spotify shows. Yeah. There was a Harley Quinn one that I thought was fun.
Yeah. So
those sort of things are like... I don't do a lot of audiobooks or like these podcasts, like narrative stories. But if I have like a project... where I'm like painting a room.
Oh yeah,
or
that's
like,
perfect for it.
Like stripping paint outside the house or something, or just paint related tasks.
Yeah,
throwing on something like that is phenomenal. It makes the day go by so much quicker.
Yeah, or mowing the lawn.
Yeah, right. That sort of stuff. It's great for that.
Yeah. So I again as like. A dork, I'm kind of excited about it.
Yeah.
Because I think it's cool to keep that, like, kind of a remember where you came from kind of thing.
Yeah.
I also think it'll be interesting to see how the modern story fits into that old style.
Yeah.
You know, fits into a new medium. As fans of comic books, I think we can all appreciate adaptations of one style to, another.
Yeah.
As you learn in media school, the medium is the message, right? So
how
does the change of format impact the story?
Yeah, right.
And on top of that, it's the best Superman story ever told. So
Hey. I did like with one of the Batman ones they did, whether it was the Joker or Harley Quinn, it was done through like, the therapist puts down the tape recorder.
Yeah.
So you could listen. This was like the recordings
Yeah.
of the conversations between like Harley Quinn and Joker or Batman and Harley Quinn, whatever it was. And that was just like a really interesting motif. And then it's like they go back and have conversations with the commissioner almost as if like the recorder was left on.
Yeah.
And it's just like a way around it, but really, really fun way to play with the audio medium.
Yeah, a completely unique style that only works in that medium.
Yes,
Right?
right.
Like a found footage horror movie.
Yes,
you
totally.
You can't do that in another medium.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think it'll be cool. I think it's worth checking out. Unfortunately, you do have to buy it. It's not a podcast. It's not whether they put it on streaming. They'll probably put it, episode 1 up or something. But
Yep. So you can preview it.
yeah, you do have to purchase it. It is.
I wonder how
an
long
audiobook.
it'll be. Do you know?
I mean, 12 issues, you figure if you're going based on like movie logic, each page is a minute. Mm-hmm. So you figure a comic book is about 30 minutes worth of material. Mm-hmm. So a couple hours.
All right.
6 hours for a 12-issue story.
Cool.
That's a guess, an educated guess. We'll see.
All right. Hey, if it goes on sale, I'm definitely in. That's as far as they've got their hooks in me, though. Comic book bags and boards are hit by 150% tariff. Our supplies, babe. The things we use to keep our treasures safe.
God.
Brutal.
Fuck.
The least fun thing to spend money on.
Already the least fun thing.
Yeah, right. The little bags and boards that your comics go into. People have been already kind of price gouging on these bad boys. That for the longest time, it was like $4 or $5 for 100 bags, and then $10 for boards.
Yeah.
In the last few years, I feel like I've seen both of those. I've seen bags go up to like $15 and boards go up to $15
Yes.
and bags go up to $10. And that's way too overpriced. So I've always ordered in bulk.
Totally.
Because I'm like,
if you can afford to do
I have a massive collection. I know I'm going to use them, right?
Yeah.
Why not bite the bullet, save money long term, and buy just like 500 bags and 500 boards at a time.
Totally.
It's like the most cost effective way to do it. So something to consider if you're in the hobby for the long haul, that you might look on eBay for those kind of like bulk deals and things like that before things get out of control.
At least buy 100 of each.
Yeah, right. One of the things that sometimes bums me out about like the temporary price increases for tariffs is once consumers get used to like, this now costs $20 to buy 100 boards.
Yeah.
Then it's like, let's say the tariffs go away. $20 is the price now,
Dude.
right? It's like forever. It's forever ruined.
Comrade Vargas checking in.
Yeah, because
shit never goes down in price.
because they know people will spend it.
Yeah.
Now. So
Fucking
we're fucked on the on the supplies thing. It's a real drag.
burn it down.
Yeah,
You know?
I used to. I never ordered from a place for the longest time that didn't include free bags and boards, and I thought that was bonkers. That like anybody made you pay
Yeah.
for bags and boards, and I did it for the first time this last month. I had to pay a charge, and life goes on.
But you can still be mad about it.
I can still be upset.
It's a safe place to be upset about paying for bags and boards.
Thank you.
Mike.
I appreciate it. Also, when they individually bag stuff for you, I mean, I get that someone's sitting there and having to do it, but still,
Whatever.
they're
Yeah.
way overcharging.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Anything else on that? You got a riff on supplies?
No, I'm bummed about it.
Yeah.
I
God forbid short boxes too.
Dude, Short boxes are like...
My short boxes come from Canada.
Oh, sure.
I don't know if there's like a...
I mean, there's a tariff on everything. Because we don't like foreigners in this country, Mike. I don't know if you've heard.
A country of foreigners that hates foreigners.
No. We're all Americans, okay? We're here first. No one came over until after 9/11. And all those people are bad. I don't know if you heard.
He says satirically, just got to be clear.
I'm very serious about that.
Okay. You heard via a podcast that Jonathan Hickman, who is writing Ultimate Spider-Man and has kind of been the architect of this like new wave of Ultimate stories,
Yep.
indicated that Donny Cates was poised to be in that position, which makes sense, I think, as someone who had written Venom and had breathed a lot of fresh air into that character and had a lot of like kind of hype coming off of the Venom run into the Hulk run.
Yep.
And doing that
Thor run.
Yeah, that's right. And doing like just like interesting, cool new stuff. Do you remember how like he wrote that? I think it was the Donny Cates Thor run that had the Black Winter thing.
That was Thor.
And that's like any other writer who would have wrote that same comic book at the time. I don't think there would have been near as much of the fervor there was, because that issue was like $30 raw for a while, and people were selling 9/8 graded of it for like over $100 for a hot minute there. And it's just like, it's a cloud that could like theoretically hurt Thor in the future. You know what I mean? Like, obviously I don't remember all the nuances of it because it can't just be that, but I remember reading the book and being like, this is the one we're freaking out about?
It was the same thing as like Titan in his Hulk run.
Yeah.
Because I think people were like, that's the next Null.
Yeah,
you know?
Right.
So they're like,
Null is going to be.
We got to get that Hulk book. We got to get that Thor book because in 28 issues, when the next Marvel event is Black Winter, this is going to be the book to own. So,
would have made sense. He just had so much heat at the time.
Yeah. So I guess Hickman was just very straightforward. And I guess Ultimate Invasion or Ultimate Incursion, one of them has a credit, a special thank you to Donnie.
That maybe he had already done ideation.
Yeah.
And they used some of the planning.
That's what Hickman kind of indicated, was that he was working on this stuff kind of off and on throughout, over a couple of years while he was working at Marvel.
Yeah.
And he was originally supposed to be kind of where Hickman is now, being the main writer of Ultimate Spider-Man, and then the Ultimate Universe would kind of spin out as Peter Parker, I guess, met these different characters in his book. He meets Black Panther, and the Black Panther shoots off. He meets whoever, an X-Man, and X-Men spits off. And I think that's, an interesting what if is, what if Donny Cates kind of kept his trajectory?
Yep.
I think Marvel would look a lot different. But another interesting part of that interview was that that's how Hickman kind of sees himself now. He said something along the lines of, he plants a tree and then those branches, he just like leaves it for other folks to like kind of take the ball and run with.
Yeah, he was kind of like the architect of Krakoa.
Yeah.
The whole X-Men thing. And then a bunch of really cool creators came in and did the individual stories.
Yeah,
that was the same thing. Like, he even wrote the first handful of the X-Men run before giving it to Jerry Duggan, I think.
Yep.
If he was the first person to write it out of that.
I think so.
But Benjamin Percy, Teenie Howard, Leah Williams, there was a handful of people out of that group who wrote early Krakoa stuff that all rocked.
Yeah.
That was a very exciting time in comics.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's all people were talking about was that X-Men stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting when you get somebody who knows that they're like the architect of, a universe getting to weigh in on stuff like that. Also makes me wonder what Marvel's plans for Hickman are in the future. You know, obviously Ultimate Incursion is coming.
This was a thing I like. He was going to be more on like the larger than life aspect of Marvel, like or like the bigger like cosmic side.
Yeah, he was Gods, and
because he did Gods, and now he's doing Imperial.
Yeah,
and I think there's a chance that maybe the plan for Gods and Imperial at one point of time in time had been much grander.
Oh, I'm sure.
And because he ended up getting split and the Ultimate Universe was such a hit that it was like, oh no, we need people to stay focused on this thing and keep powering it forward. It works.
I can't imagine that Hickman didn't have 20 issues outlined for Gods.
They really were promoting it hard.
Yeah.
And when it came out, I felt like it was just a mini that was like, that was fun, right? And then we didn't really talk about it again for a while.
Have those characters shown up outside of that series? Like, they're supposed to be these, like, you know, pieces of the universe or whatever in you know, human form.
Yep.
And they've just, like, never shown up again.
Yeah, I'm the world's biggest Cubist Core fan, so if we can get my man back in some stories and some funny books.
You know, your Cubist Core cosplay at the last con was perfect. It was spot on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just walked around in my little box. All right. I think that was it for a new. How was that for a news segment, folks?
How was it?
New to comics.
We'll wait for the emails.
Long time reader and lover of the medium. We hope you all found some little nugget of joy in there. But let's talk about the spot that's going to be great for everyone. New comic books.
All right.
Hooray!
I read a bunch this week.
Woo.
I'm going to save my favorite one for last.
Ooh.
So, first up, we've got Star Wars, #1. So, this is a relaunch, I suppose, of Marvel's classic Star Wars tales. This takes place after Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
And it's, you know, a Luke and Leia story. Luke does all the stuff you'd expect. He flies an X-Wing. He has a lightsaber fight. He uses the Force. Leia is queen.
Yeah.
You know, she becomes general.
Yes.
Han is a scoundrel.
Yep.
All the things you want.
I love the part when Han is like, hey, Mark. And then a word bubble off screen is like, Luke. And he goes, oh shit, can we cut?
Yeah.
And then they go, just keep going. And then the story picks back up. That was a fun panel.
That was interesting.
Yeah. That didn't happen.
That didn't happen in the comic.
That was just weird bits.
That was just a goof. There is one interesting part in here, and I need to go back and reread it. Because in fairness to this book, I kind of read it quickly because I needed to get through the stack. But there's a part where Luke crash lands on Dagobah, and he like sees an alternate vision of himself where he in reality has a green lightsaber, but he sees this flash of himself with a blue lightsaber fighting Darth Vader, like in the Force cave.
Okay.
He's in Dagobah.
Yeah.
But you get the impression that that's like an alternate reality.
Another path he could take? No.
Yeah.
Oh. An alternate reality.
Well, somewhere in there, right?
Yeah,
like
right.
This is either like a vision of the future or, you know, I could have done this, but did this instead.
Yeah, right.
Whatever. So that was kind of interesting and something that I have not seen before in this classic Star Wars stuff. Like, you've seen that, like, whatever, Force, whatever, oculomancy or whatever, where you can, like, kind of read the future in other Star Wars stuff. But
yes.
to see it here was kind of cool.
I know they've at least tentatively decided, and they could always change this later, that the comic books are canon.
Yeah.
So it is a fun and exciting time to read a Star Wars book, being that this is like immediately following Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
That here's like the follow-up repercussions, the next adventures of this group.
Yes. And I mean, this is a classic Star Wars story.
Mm-hmm.
If you want, it felt like drinking a warm glass of milk on a winter's day.
Blue milk.
Yeah, a warm glass of blue milk. All your friends are here. All your toys are back in the box. And you can pull them out and play with them again.
Yay!
And they're pristine and new. I talked about this on the Patreon, but like one of the highlights is Phil Noto's art.
Yeah.
I just love anything this guy does, and seeing him on interiors is just such a pleasure. He really encapsulates what these characters look like.
Yeah.
And he's just at the top of his game. So
yep, love him.
Star Wars is great. If you like Star Wars, check it out.
All right, that's it. We got a little tease that there's some new lore there, like you said. I think that's the right decision for a first issue. That like, here's a Luke having a glimpse of something that could have rolling repercussions that shake the foundation of like what he believes about himself is like a fun way to spin.
At least that's the way I read it.
Yeah.
I will say that I am not like the Star Wars guy. Mm-hmm. So like, I'm sure somebody listening to this is like, actually, that happened before. Okay, fine. But it felt new to me.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, what was important. It felt impactful. And it was cool to see Luke interact with like a new character too. He teams up with like part of Red Squadron, his like fighter pilot squadron.
Yes.
They both crash land on Dagobah together. So
all right on.
There's some cool stuff in there.
Cool.
My first of 2 Mark Spears covers for the week.
Hey.
This dude is having a moment.
Yep.
Got Space Ghost and Johnny Quest, Spacequest.
Great title.
It's perfect. It's the perfect title. And this is, I think it's Joe Casey. Mm-hmm. He wrote Johnny Quest, that Greg is like all about, this new Dynamite Johnny Quest book. So this is just a straight up crossover between those 2 IPs. It is an out-of-the-box Johnny Quest story right at the start. It picks up right where that first arc of Johnny Quest goes, where they have gone to the future and come back. Mm-hmm. They do all the Johnny Quest stuff. Race Bannon goes and seduces a girl in a foreign country, and there are those frog men that are bad guys. They show up. And then the twist is at the end, Johnny has this little chip that Dr. Quest brings back from the future, or that was modified by their trip to the future. And he plugs it into a machine, and the machine teleports or switches places with Johnny and Haji, and I can't ever remember the names of the kids. The 2 kids from Space Ghost and their little space monkey.
Oh, I don't think I knew this.
Oh, okay. Well, Space Ghost has 2 little like teenage sidekicks.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Was this in the... Because, okay, my only exposure to Space Ghost...
is Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Yes.
I don't think they ever showed up in Space Ghost Coast to Coast. But he's got 2 little like teenage friends.
Yeah.
And they have a space monkey. And they have like little cadet uniforms. So those 2 kids swap places with Johnny and Haji.
Okay.
So the little space kids are on Earth with Dr. Quest and Race.
Yep.
And Johnny and Haji are teleported to space with Space Ghost.
Nice.
So that's the setup at the end of the book. I guess we'll see, how the space kids deal with the enemies of the Quest family, and how Johnny and Haji deal with being in space.
The lore of Space Ghost is just such an interesting thing to me. And I'm sure this take is like so played by now.
Okay.
But it is interesting to me that this was like some content that was created that had like a very, very small, unique fan base. And then they reinterpreted it as like, oh, here's a character we can get for free and he's funny looking. Let's make a whole new thing out of it. And it rewrote what people contextually know about this character so foundationally in like what it is in the landscape of pop culture. And then to do something with it now that is not informed by the larger picture of what we understand Space Ghost to be, which is like an even bigger asshole David Letterman type. Like, it's just bizarre to me.
Well, I think you're correct. But I also think your interpretation of Space Ghost is very informed by the time at which you were growing up.
Yeah, right.
Because
people 10 years younger than me probably have zero. This is like their first exposure to Space Ghost.
Probably.
Yeah.
And people 10 years...
Maybe they caught the tail end of the Brack show.
Yeah, maybe. Right. But I would say people 10 years older than you have experience with the Hanna-Barbera show.
Sure.
Because, like,
yeah,
my dad was watching Space Ghost when he was, like, a kid and teenager.
Yeah.
And exposed me and my brother to it through that. So when Space Ghost Coast to Coast came on, I was like, what is this? Because this is not Space Ghost.
Yeah.
So to have Spacey come back and be, like, a hero again was, like, kind of nice.
Yeah, sure.
And I was fucking jazzed when Johnny Quest came back because I own all of Johnny Quest on DVD.
Was that a Hanna-Barbera thing too?
Yes.
Okay, so they're keeping them in the family.
So was Herculoids.
Yes.
That book that
and they are doing a Herculoids book.
Yeah,
that's
that one
right.
that came out a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
So anyway, to get this like crossover book was very, very cool for me.
Yeah.
And I'm all about those like Johnny Quest books. I wasn't so much into Space Ghost, but this book was great. It was a lot of fun. If you're into that thing. Cool. I also read another.
Yeah, sure.
My second of 2 Mark Spears covers.
This was beyond Hanna-Barbera. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. But another comic book adaptation of a old
cartoon.
Captain Planet and the Planeteers.
Look how serious that cover looks compared to what I know Captain Planet to be.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Well, and so David Pepos wrote this. I trust that guy with all my IP.
Yeah,
he knows how to write a comic book.
Yeah.
The thing he did absolutely 100% right is assuming nobody reading this book knew anything about Captain Planet.
Okay.
He gave us a from the ground origin of who the hell Captain Planet is and what he does.
Yeah.
So the first couple of pages are Gaia, the like witch that or whatever that controls. Well, she like controls Captain Planet. She's like she's like Mrs. Planet.
Okay.
She's charged with protecting the Earth.
This isn't like mythology Gaia.
No.
This is their own made up Gaia.
Yeah, this is a person.
Yeah.
And so she is being chased by, the villains and summons Captain Planet, and Captain Planet loses, the rings scatter and find the teenagers that we know and love.
Yes.
And gives us a little introduction to each of them.
Yep.
They are updated, thankfully, to be more like normal people and not just like goody two shoes kinds of characters.
Yeah.
The coolest part I thought was Mati, the little boy whose heart was always kind of a wuss. He had the power of heart, which is like, why don't you change your mind to be nice, Mike?
Yeah.
In this, he is kind of a badass. There's a scene where I think he's a poacher, but he gets like tackled by a jaguar or something with like glowing eyes, and you see Mati like stroll up, and he's got all these animals with glowing eyes around him. and he says something like, I was going to kill you myself, but I had a change of heart. And it's like, oh shit, he can like kind of control animals, like emotions.
Okay.
And is like maybe a little unhinged.
Yeah. His heart is devoted to the planet, not so much humankind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So I don't know. It was
Jesus. That's not the tone I expected, to be honest.
It toes the line nicely
between
the squeaky clean image that you expect from a book about an eco hero.
Yep.
And something you would expect out of like a modern comic for modern audiences.
Yeah, right.
So,
I mean, giving him like a gnarly hipster beard and haircut, I mean, does a lot just from an immediate aesthetic standpoint to say, this is not a kid's thing. Like, this guy is like grizzled and has long fought a war that he's losing.
Exactly.
Like, he kind of has that, 1,000-yard stare or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
On this cover in particular.
Yeah. So it's a pretty cool book. Pretty interesting. This is one that I'll definitely at least give it the first arc.
Yeah.
Just to see how it plays out.
Mm-hmm.
We get our introduction to the main villain. What's his name? Lucian Plunder, I think.
Lucian Plunder.
Yeah, he wants to like pave the Amazon and like turn it into a parking lot or whatever, right? That's like his motivation. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Right. But it was way less goofy than I thought it would be, for sure. Which I guess I should have expected out of David Pepos writing. But
yes, that's what this Speed Racer book was kind of like.
Yeah. So it was good. I would recommend you pick it up. You read Blood and Thunder, right?
I did.
I didn't get to this. Do you want to talk about it?
Yes, sure. So this comic exists in a world wherein, can we show the cover of it? If you're watching the video feed. I guess it takes place on this little like planetoid, which is mostly like a prison planet.
Right.
And the prison planet has several layers to it that kind of cascade upward like a pyramid and downward like a pyramid.
Okay.
And tier 1 is where all the rich people live. It's bright and sunny. It's like high society.
Sure.
And
it always.
As you go further down in the tiers, it's like very much like a literal interpretation of a caste system.
Okay.
All of their like pollutants and rainwater fall further down and down and down and creates, a grimy, shit-soaked world for the people at the very bottom.
Sure.
So there's that at play. This planetoid is the home of aliens and Earthers.
Okay.
Who have come together and, like, again, there's, like, a little bit of, like, a class disparity and a lot of hate between the two races. Or, I guess, the variety of races, but, like, all the alien races kind of get lumped together, and then there's like Earthers.
Sure.
Our lead in this is a character who has taken on the nickname or moniker of Blood.
Hell yeah.
And when you see her, I wanted you to show that cover because when you see her hair is cascading out. It is actually not hair. It is a cloud of blood that floats around her head and like has the appearance of hair. So it's kind of like it's like the way her species blood like oxygenates is arriving through the head and like constantly circulating, which makes this hair like thing.
That is so fucking metal.
It's really rad. When I realized that's what was happening here, I was like, that's such a cool design choice. And she is a bounty hunter that does a lot of work for the police force.
Sure.
That is run by mostly Earthers. And so she's kind of humanoid looking, has kind of like been accepted by this group as somebody who like kicks ass and has earned their respect. She uses this gun that is sentient.
Is its name Thunder?
And its name is Thunder. And this gun is an older version of the modern guns that the police use today,
Sure.
which is the guns that the modern police use are a little less emotional, while her gun
He's a crybaby.
has much more empathy. And so she's like, switched to like shotgun rounds.
Yeah.
And the gun is like absolutely not like lethal. Like we're at way too close range for that. Lethal force is not validated. And she's like, I'm in a fucking pickle here. And like, evading blasts and things and getting in all kinds of shit because her and the gun can't agree on the proper use of force. But ultimately, Thunder saves her from making these decisions that ultimately like haunt her later.
Sure.
And she's got this emotional connection to her gun because it has more empathy, and it was her father's gun who was part of the police force before her. There's a lot of like peripheral things going on that are probably going to lead into like what the bigger narrative for this book is. There's like a prison escape and some like dangerous people on this.
Sure.
Again, like the whole thing with the class system, that there's some like political things at play here, which are really interesting. But more or less, I think this is like a fun character with a badass title.
Yeah.
And Robert Kirkman was like, I got a great idea. And it's like,
Run with it.
Can you imagine saying like, he used like an example of like some new book that was just like one of those like really long titles. Like, Allah, something is killing the children or something. And he was like, imagine saying like this, blah, 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 number 5, versus like, you pick up the new Blood and Thunder. He's just like, this sounds badass.
Yeah.
It's just like, great. He says that he got the title of this from a Jack Kirby interview where he said something like, comics can like hit your soul like Blood and Thunder.
Yeah.
Just like it's this, impactful thing that gets you at your core. And he was just like that particular expression always stuck with Robert Kirkman. And so he called up some of his buddies with, I think, some of the like bones of the idea. Yeah. And now that they're running with actually writing the thing and plotting out the story that he's like kind of architected.
Makes me want to listen to that Mastodon song.
Is there a Mastodon song called Blood and Thunder?
Oh, yeah, and it rips.
Hell yeah.
Love it.
All right.
That sounds like a winner to me.
It's an awesome book. And, the art style is very unique. It's not like the stuff you see. It's not like a house style kind of book. This person's style reminds me, I haven't read a lot of stuff that this person has done, but it reminds me a bit of that Rick Remender book, Sacrificers.
Oh, sure.
It kind of has that vibe.
Okay.
And I love that book.
I'm trying to look up quickly who did the art here.
Who did the art in CLZ? This is my favorite thing about CLZ now, is that when a convention is coming to town, I can just put in someone's name, and it's like, oh, I have 10 comics that I can choose from to bring.
Oh, it's
like
incredible.
Going through like Wikipedia and people's things before to be like, ooh, do I have something that person has done? It was like impossible before.
E.J. Sue. He did Tech Jacket.
I'm not very familiar with Tech Jacket.
Not either.
I'm afraid to say.
I'm not either. But Blood and Thunder sounds like a...
Take my nerd card. I'm still a dork, though.
Still a dork. Now.
All right.
My book of the week.
Okay. And I'm not surprised to see it comes from a little publisher called Mad Cave.
Dude.
A pub that is having one of the greatest runs of first issues in modern remembrance. They just are killing it. Book after book after book.
And most of it's like IP.
They're doing a lot of IP stuff.
Licensed stuff.
Yeah, sure.
But this is a Mark Russell book, and I get the feeling that this is going to be an anthology.
Okay.
But I'm not quite sure. So, in this book, issue 1, we get the story of a space miner in that he mines minerals. He's not underage. He is sent out on a 10-year stint by himself. And if he makes his quota, he can come back early. He's got a young kid and a wife. The wife expresses some concern as he's leaving about going Ahab.
Okay.
Which is like their parlance for guys that they say have just gone crazy and gone rogue, but the understanding is they're dead. But you don't want to say,
yeah, okay.
They don't want to say your husband's dead. They're like he might be out there. He could come back any day.
Yeah.
You know, one of those whatever, like a lost at sea kind of thing.
Yes.
So they call it going Ahab. So as the story progresses, he wakes up one day and he's got this electrical interference and it kills his video system. So he has to switch to emergency radio. So that's like the first nail in the coffin where he's like, okay, I'm a couple years into this. I can't see my wife or son anymore, but I can hear them. I can talk to them.
Yeah.
I'll be fine. Right. And as he keeps working, he starts hearing over his emergency radio system screams at like all times.
Oh God.
Just these horrible whatever.
Yeah.
Earth is saying, we don't hear anything.
Okay.
His wife is saying, we don't hear anything. Just keep going. You're fine. We're waiting for you.
Yeah.
Whatever. So he's like, he doesn't know if this is in his head.
Yeah.
Or if he's actually like hearing, obviously.
Tapping into something horrific.
Yeah. Well, you're right. He's out in space. There's nothing out there. Nothing can be screaming out there because it's in space.
Yep.
So.
No one can hear you scream.
No one's going to hear you scream. So. Eventually, the screams get too much for him.
Okay.
And he smashes his radio. And he's like, I can't talk to Earth. I can't talk to my wife. I'm just going to focus on working.
Yep.
Get this done and go home.
Yeah.
So eventually, he's like, was I hearing screams or was this in my head? He leaves his ship. He goes out. And what he finds is the rocks that he's been mining are generating an electrical signal, and they're basically have become an intelligence, but it's like a collective thing. So the rocks are screaming and sending him signals because they're watching them be crushed.
Yeah.
As he's like mining.
Right.
So the end of the book, he's like, I can't, and he's mined this entire, asteroid belt.
Yeah, right.
Down to the last rock.
Yep.
So he like rounds the corner of this planet and he just sees a sea of bodies of other miners in the same spacesuit that presumably have all gone Ahab and experienced the same thing he did.
Right.
And that's where the book ends.
Jesus. Okay. It makes sense that it would end there. You're right. So it probably is like a one-off anthology thing.
Yeah. Well, and because
there is an issue 2.
There is an issue 2 coming, and the preview they give you is, and I probably should have looked this up, but the preview they give you is this.
Oh, wow.
It's like a Jetsons.
Yeah.
It's like a straight up Jetsons ripoff.
Is it still by Mark Russell?
Yep. Mark Russell, but a different artist.
Okay. So this is like a silver coin sort of project.
Could be.
Where it's like one person is the through line, in this case a writer, Mark Russell.
Yeah.
And then different artists interpret different stories with him.
Yep. But
silver coin was the other way around. It was one writer or one artist.
Different writers.
Doing, different writers, little like Twilight Zone kind of horror stories.
Yeah.
That had this coin as like a common link.
But man, I know I just like kind of gave everything away, but like I cannot recommend this book enough. It was like,
it sounds cool. Yeah.
It was like the perfect sci-fi book where it makes you, examine yourself in a context that is kind of otherwise otherworldly or like you wouldn't put yourself into.
I love it.
It was great.
Killer.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, audience, you've heard about something that you're inspired to get out to your local comic shop and pick up yourselves. A little escapism never hurt. Take yourself on an adventure into comic books. And we'll see you next week with more. Bye. First Issue Club is edited and produced by Mike DeStacy and Greg Lichtag. Follow us on social media at First Issue Club and check out our Patreon for videos, audio, and more at patreon.com/firstissueclub.